now come to a new feature called Both Sides Count, in which we invite two senior people from the water sector to present the case for or against a particular issue. Now, the key feature of this new segment is that the debaters making their cases might actually be arguing for a position that they don't personally agree with. Why? Well, because we think it's increasingly important that in today's polarised world we can show that there are two sides to most topics, and that even if we have a firm position, reasonable people can understand the arguments from the other side. So, for our first Both Sides Count debate, we have George Hawkins, whom we saw earlier, and Andrea Gysin, Net Zero and Innovation Director at WSP. And the topic we gave them to wrestle with? Well, it's that age-old water sector conundrum. What's better, public ownership or private ownership? If you want to join in, click on the purple triangle to the right of your screen to open up the chat box and click on the poll. In particular, if you want to share your view, or whether your views changed after you've heard George and Andrea speak, please add a comment. Otherwise, sit back and enjoy the show.
Privatization of water utilities is exactly the right outcome because we all know there's not enough money ever to solve the water issues that we have, unless two features which privatization brings can be brought to the forefront. One is a constant drive to invest to improve and reduce costs. Private companies, by their nature, are seeking to improve their balance sheet, so they're by nature always investing to optimize efficiencies. The second is scale. Private companies can work across boundaries and can get the best personnel that a smaller, unique utility can't on skill, and as well as having the knowledge to share among all their various entities. There's no other way that you can manage water utilities in today's world.
The water industry fills this vital societal function and a vital environmental function. So it's absolutely critical that that is governed by the public interest. And whilst we see private utilities in the UK, for example, committing to enhancing public value, it just is so important that we don't leave that to the chance of private investment doing the right thing. So we really need to get alignment with policy. And of course, we need to get alignment across the various risk authorities. So it's not just water utilities and the water utility function that needs to be aligned to those outcomes. It's also other risk management authorities, whether they're local authorities. And that is much easier to do if you've got that fundamental alignment with greater public outcomes.
There's another, this angle of cost is the driving force of any infrastructure agency, and a private company is able to share those costs among a broader rate base. It also is presenting those costs to a professional entity which approves rates rather than a municipal government of elected officials. And that professional rate review is a standalone issue that opens the door to the investments that can prove the future.
So I think this is nowhere more apparent than in the current challenge that we have around climate change and net zero and some of the interventions we need to make. If you take, for example, the challenge of delivering low carbon heat, the water company infrastructure, so sewerage, for example, is a great source of low carbon heat. But there's very little motivation today for water companies to make that heat available because actually the value, the carbon value, the economic value sits at the point of end use. So if we were in public ownership, we wouldn't have that barrier.
In sum, the privatization of water works because we can invest money to constantly improve services. We gain scale for personnel and expertise, and we have a professionalized rate review system that allows and enables in investments. That's a winning combination.
So in summary, if we look at what we want from the water sector, we need a sector that is aligned to societal outcomes, and those are both around the people, the built environment, and of course the natural environment. And aligning those outcomes to policy and regulatory objectives is much easier if the finance that controls the investment is also controlled by those same public bodies.
So, I mentioned that part of the beauty of this segment is that the debaters might actually be arguing for a side which is contrary to where their real heart lies. We do this to emphasise the fact that most sensible people can understand both sides of an argument. It doesn't always need to be a polarised discussion. So with this in mind, it's only fair to give the debaters their moment of truth to share what they really feel.
My real thought on this is that actually there is no single answer to this question because every model works given circumstances. I like the public model because you don't have to generate a return to investors, and you can do all those things of return on investment. I like independent private, like an authority, but I also think private systems, for all the reasons I said, are absolutely the right call in the right place. So all of those options work depending on circumstance.
So my position on this is there isn't really a single right answer, and both models can work. And actually, if we look at what privatisation has done for the UK water industry, the level of investment that's been made and the huge increase in water quality standards and environmental performance that we've seen, it has arguably been a success for the UK. And the reality is all those issues and barriers I mentioned can be overcome by good collaboration. We just need to have the right parties around the table motivated to collaborate. So I think both models can work, but I'm a huge advocate for making our privatised system in the UK work to its fullest potential.
Wasn't that brilliant? Thank you, George and Andrea, for being so excellent as our first debaters. Now, if you've been watching this and thinking, hey, I'd love to do that too, then let me know, because this is going to become a regular feature.